tonight. For those who I haven't yet met or had a chance to say hello to, I'm Ed Trusty, and I'm head of school here at St. Paul School for Boys. Let's do a roll call. If you are an alum of St. Paul's, raise your hand. Alums, welcome back. How about former employees? Raise your hand. Some of you had your hands up for both of those. How about current parents? Current parents, awesome. How about current students? Awesome. Well, we are so grateful that everybody has joined us tonight for this second installation in our celebration of St. Paul's 175 years. And we're grateful for all of the folks who are involved, and I'll do my thank yous at the very end. But as I mentioned, this is the second installation in our St. Paul's speaker series, and there is a third installation that I'll talk about at the end. But the focus today is really on celebrating our present. That's our theme, and we have some wonderful alums who are here to tell their stories and to connect with you all about their experiences here at St. Paul's, how those experiences may have impacted in some ways the work that they're doing and the leadership that they have out in the world. What's unique is that all of these alums have a professional experience in the arts or entertainment or athletics. And that's the theme for our series tonight. And I also want to say it's apropos that we're talking about the present, because we also have one of our current students who's going to be facilitating this discussion. So I'll pass the mic on to him, and then at the very end, I'll come back and share some more thoughts and reflections, and then we'll have some more time for fellowship. I will mention we're not going to have a Q&A tonight, but these folks are going to hang around a bit. If you want to ask some more specific questions, they're happy to do so as we fellowship a bit more after this. But please let me pass the mic to Max Levesque, and Max will be leading this section. Max probably won't talk a bit about himself, but I'll take a couple seconds. And how many of you have seen any of the SPSN live streams of our sports? If you have, you may have seen or heard the voice that you're about to hear next, and that's Max. He and Matt Byers, who's here, and many of our other students who are making sure that folks across the world who are tuned in, wave to everybody across the world who are tuned in to hear this experience tonight. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic to Max Levesque. Thank you, Max.
Thanks, Dr. Trusty. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here as we celebrate 175 years of St. Paul's. That alone is just an incredible achievement. In a few moments, we're going to be able to hear from four incredible alums and kind of their experience in high school, how their experiences here translated into their professional fields, and kind of what they're doing today. But thank you again, everyone, for being here, and it's really awesome to see the turnout. So first, Billy Chismar, class of 2017. You went on to Colby College in Maine, played lacrosse there, and then majored in English.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Majored in English. I know you had some past writing in high school, and then that's when your writing began into college, and then you had your first hardcover titled Them that just got released at the end of 2024, right?
Yes, sir. That was just that was sort of like a limited release. Am I working?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That was a limited release, so just like a small publishing company that I published that story online originally, which is how they read it, how they got a hold of it. But we're looking forward to like a more mass market traditional release in March of 2026.
Awesome. Super excited for that. Next, Lamont Wade Jr., class of 2012. You were drafted in the 9th round by the Twins in 2019, then traded to the Giants, where you are currently playing in 2021. You play left field, correct?
Ooh, first base.
First base, sorry about that. Google told me differently.
Used to be an outfielder.
Used to be outfield, okay. So graduated here in 2012, was a member of the baseball team, and then went on to play at Maryland, and then currently in the major leagues. Super excited for you to be here.
Yes, appreciate it. Thank you.
Next up, we have Chris Thomas. You graduated here in 1998, then attended Skidmore College for 2 years. Then you took some time away from college to tour with your band Spinfire. Then went back to school at Berklee College of Music in 2004 and developed two parallel careers, media production and live events design. Mr. Thomas produced more than 100 records and 200 recordings in his studio in Charlestown, Massachusetts, and founded Charlestown AV, a boutique audio, video, and lighting production company in 2015, merged with Charlestown AV with the Maxis Group, and continues to produce and design media and events globally with Charlestown AV. Correct?
That's right.
Awesome. And then last but not least, on the end, Scott Seymour, class of 1984. After your time at St. Paul's, you went on to attend Middlebury College, located in Vermont. You manage the golf business at Octagon, a leading global agency in sports entertainment and culture. You play a lead strategic role for corporate clients that include Bank of America, BMW, Delta, MasterCard, Comcast Business, Century, UPS, and many more. And you are recognized as one of the top 10 deal makers in golf and sports by Sports Business Journal. Super happy for you to be here.
Yeah, the older guy here with the gray in his beard.
So that was just a little brief introduction. I'll let you guys get into it, talk a little bit about more your time here at St. Paul's and what you do today. So feel free to hop in with whatever you'd like.
You're first. All right. Yeah, I can go ahead. Yeah, I mean, my time, I started here at St. Paul's as a freshman in high school. Didn't go through the middle school or anything earlier. I was at Hartford Day School over in Hartford County, where I'm actually a volunteer assistant lacrosse coach right now. So every once in a while, I'm back here coaching against the middle school lacrosse teams. But yeah, like Max said, I'm a writer. And right, Max? Okay, good. I'm a writer. I started out after I graduated college with, how many of you here know what Patreon is online? Anybody? Yeah, a good chunk of you. So I had a Patreon page I still do, but it was, I really, really was focusing on it for my first 2 years out of school, out of college, and I had one short story a month there. Every month, pretty much rain or shine, no fail, even if the stories were like 10,000 words. And then in that, at some point I stopped doing short stories and I started doing writing a novel in like 10,000 word chunks I would release every month. And in 6 months, all of a sudden I had a whole book, and I got an offer from a small publishing company a guy who was on my Patreon and read it, wanted to pick it up for a small limited run, and then fast forward today, that book, which is called Them, it's about monsters and the end of the world. Big Stephen King influence for me. Yeah, that'll be coming out with Gallery Books and Simon & Schuster in March 2026. So I went from, just a very online kind of trying to start it up as much as I could. And I got, some lucky breaks, some lucky eyes on my stuff. And yeah, I'm published now.
Awesome. Super glad that you're here. Mr. Wade, during your time here at St. Paul's, could you talk a little bit about what your role was, maybe some of the things you were involved in?
Yes. So in 2000, when I was here, I did not come through the middle school. I came through the upper school as well. I was a part of the basketball team as well, which was a great time. We won the championship my sophomore year, which was pretty cool. Was also a member of varsity baseball. Got my head coach over there, Coach Walsh here, which was really cool to see. But yeah, so my role was that, but also I did other things in the community. I was also playing the jazz band for a while. I played the clarinet. Wasn't that good, so that kind of finished out early. But yeah, that was kind of what I was doing here.
Mr. Seymour, what were you involved in?
Yeah, so I came here my sophomore year in high school. I moved from Connecticut. My dad was in communications and moved up and down the East Coast running television stations, and he came here to run Channel 2 in Baltimore here, which was a really cool experience for me as part of it. With St. Paul's coming in here, this school really prepared me for kind of the next level. I don't think I would have ended up at a school like Middlebury College had I not come to St. Paul's. I had really great teachers. Mr. Curtis was a guy who was an English teacher here when I was here, my first year here, and he kicked my ass all over the place. The papers that I wrote, he had blood all over it, and really kind of helped me directionally understand, how to write, how to think through, how to present, all the different elements with it. There was a great guy here, Mr. Tulai. I know a lot of you guys know Mr. Tulai. When we moved here, I was all set to go to Gilman, and I went and walked through the doors there, and I saw the people, and I met with the headmaster, and I turned to my dad and said, "That's not the place for me." And my brother was set to come here to St. Paul's, and I came over here and met with Mr. Tulai, and he took me on a tour, and this place felt like home. It was really just a unique place. He made me feel at home, kind of took me through what you guys are doing here. I was playing soccer, hockey, and lacrosse. They didn't have hockey here at the time when I moved down here, which was really a blow for me because I loved hockey. I really loved being here at St. Paul's, had a great experience, great teachers that really kind of guided me along and, gave me the opportunity to really go to a place like Middlebury College where, that set my life in a different direction.
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Thomas, anything to add about your experience here at St. Paul's?
Sure. St. Paul's, I came here in 5th grade, and I would say it feels like it's probably the same. St. Paul's gives you the opportunity to do almost whatever you want, right? I was involved in stage crew. I was with Mr. Lowe here, who, was also my chemistry teacher. So there were a lot of days where I was maybe not so great in chemistry and maybe nervous at stage crew.
I got a C plus from Mr. Lowe in chemistry.
Oh, you're a smart guy.
Yeah, exactly.
C plus, holy smokes. But was able just to do whatever I was interested in. If I wanted to do photography, Mr. Brown would show me the ropes, and I got really into that. And was able to be, luckily for me, they gave us a varsity letter when we played ice hockey. I was on the first varsity hockey team my 9th grade, and we were terrible for the 4 years I was there. And when I left, they got some Canadian guys come down, and they won some championships, and yeah, it was incredible. So I was so glad to help start such a great legacy here. I think one year we went like 0-16, and it was just a terrible embarrassment. But we learned a lot from that, and St. Paul's always gave us the opportunity. Like I said, if we were interested in something and we could find some support from the staff, then we were able to explore that, which was for me an incredible experience because I'm all over the place. I got 1,000 interests, so it was perfect for me.
Awesome. So if it's okay with you guys, we can talk a little bit about your guys' high school experience and then move into your current day profession and what you guys are doing day to day. Does that sound good? Awesome. So for each of you guys, could you talk a little bit about if there's one specific memory that stands out to you from St. Paul's? Maybe it's a teacher or a specific event that goes on that kind of sticks in your mind when you think of St. Paul's. What do you think of?
I can go first just because it's funny you were talking about hockey. I never skated before my first ice hockey practice at St. Paul's. I remember I grew up playing, obviously lacrosse. Lacrosse is always huge if you grow up in Maryland, but I grew up playing basketball and soccer, and I fouled out of pretty much every basketball game I ever played. And by the time I was in 8th grade, I'd probably had enough red cards to cover a wall with them. So I was like, these aren't going to work out anymore. So I switched to football, which, was an awesome learning experience. But I didn't really know what I was going to do in the winter. I was thinking about just working out, thinking about just getting in shape for the lacrosse season. Maybe I'd try wrestling. And then, Mr. Kaplan, he came up to me. He was like, "Hey, you're a goalie in lacrosse, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, listen, we're going to need a hockey goalie in about 2 years. You have any interest?" And I was like, "Do you have pads, equipment, gear, anything? Will you teach me?" And he just, every question I had, the answer was just always yes. And I think for me, that's just like St. Paul's in a nutshell. Is like there's just so many people here that like whatever whatever it was I needed, whatever it was I wanted help with, I could just go and find someone who would say, yes, I got you. I have your back. I'm going to help you with that. And I ended up first practice ever. I was learning how to skate. And then by the end of my 4 years here, I wasn't, a hockey goalie prodigy, but I was on varsity and I was having a great time. And it was just like 4 years came and went, and I just had this totally new skill, totally new outlook on life. And it was just all because one day I just decided, there's this thing I've never done before. I've got the opportunity to do it. And most importantly, I've got an incredible community of people who are going to be around me and lift me up whenever I fall down and make a mistake. And trust me, falling down in hockey, there was a lot of those. I was glad I had the goalie pads, otherwise that ice would have hurt a lot more. That's just the thing about St. Paul's when I think about it. When I think about my 4 years here, it was just like I had the opportunity and the encouragement to try new things and to make mistakes. And when I did make those mistakes, no one ever got mad at me. They were just like, all right, let's get up and go again. Hopefully that answers your question.
Definitely, thank you.
There's definitely one that sticks out for me. I did have great teachers and everything, but there's one thing that I'll never forget was senior year biking trip. I forget what it was called, but you had the opportunity to either bike, camp, or do water rafting. And me and a couple of my friends, Miles and London, we chose the biking trip, thinking it was going to be a piece of cake. And it was far from that. I remember them giving us a map and telling us where we needed to meet them. And we didn't know how to read a map, and it got really bad. We tried to keep up with the pack. We thought we were going to be leading it. Sadly enough, we were at the back of it. I remember getting lost on the highway, and that's when we had to call it enough. I called my dad. He came and picked us up, put our bikes on the back, and took us to where we were supposed to be. So that is definitely something I'll never forget about St. Paul's for sure.
Great, thank you.
So I remember, I think one of the things that St. Paul's is really good at is holding its students accountable for their successes and their mistakes or failures, if you will, and then course correcting. And in that, I think it helps leaders emerge and gives people basically, I think it allows them to grow as people, but not to get overconfident. And I was in a growth mode at this time, from my memory. And I remember, I don't know, I had probably done something well on, maybe we won a hockey game or something like that, and I just had a big old head about myself, I think. And I wrote a paper that was trash. And there was a teacher here named Mr. Soud. I don't know if anybody remembers Mr. Soud. Mr. Soud was, he was the bad cop. For every Mr. Darrell or, Coach Brock, who's pumping your tires all day long, Mr. Soud was there to take you down a peg, and he did. I was in the it was the upstairs of one of these buildings that probably isn't here anymore, but it's where the teachers had their the English teachers had their offices, and I was up there, just BSing out of my ears to Miss Tresca as to why my paper was no good, and Mr. Soud was just sitting there, just with his thumbs, just waiting for me to stop talking. And Miss Tresca was, very nice lady. And she was like, all right, well, that sounds good. Maybe you can redo it. And Mr. Soud just goes, that's the biggest pile of horse shit I've ever heard in my life. and it was really humbled me, and said, listen, I'm not going to, to me, I'm like, this isn't working. I gotta figure it out. So, a lot of great memories here, but that's one that really sticks out about being humbled and being held accountable for some nonsense. Pardon my profanity, but that's what it was.
A couple of things. Just thinking through teachers again. Mr. Bassett was AP bio teacher here, and he was an amazing individual, and he had a big impact on my life. And one of the cool things that we did was we went on a trip to St. John's as a group, and did a lot of snorkeling, had a lot of fun. hike the island, and he was an incredible individual. Mr. Dale was on that trip. We got in a little bit of trouble here and there, tried to stay out of the hidden areas, but it was a ton of fun. The other real great memory is running this hill out here, playing soccer over and over and over around that big bush at the top of the hill. It was an endless track, but my senior year we won the state championship, and that was really something really fun and a great accomplishment here at St. Paul's.
It's great to hear that the soccer coaches still have us doing the same run today.
I was going to say real quick, that hill didn't look that big. I was down there.
Oh, come
And-
on.
well, no, it's because I didn't have to run it. I think.
That hill, holy smokes.
Mr. Thomas, you mentioned earlier your time here at St. Paul's. You had an option to do whatever you liked, whatever you found were your interests. There was some way that you could take part in that. You found yourself now in the video production world. Was there any classes during your time here at St. Paul's that might have sparked your interest for your current profession?
Absolutely. I would say, I don't think these were well, I guess photography may have been a class, but Mr. Brown's photography class, basically photography is the precursor to any cinematography. It's all about painting with light and learning how to frame. And so Mr. Brown's tutelage in that was I think fundamental in me learning how to craft an image that that I could then tell stories with. And then I would say Mr. Lowe's experience in the theater department, I wasn't probably as big into the theatrics then as I ended up being later, but with how to just work the equipment from the sound console to the lighting board to how you design the lighting on stage. I think that was also pretty fundamental because half of my business is staging design for live events. So there's a lot that goes into that. So those are two. I don't even know if photography was an actual class or if it was something that you did after school with Mr. Brown. But those are two fundamental things in my life.
Now there's a digital art class which a lot of students take, which kind of have the photography, Photoshop, things of that nature, and then there's also technical theater, which is the lighting board and things like that you were mentioning about. So those classes still exist, and a lot of students are loving taking those classes. Mr. Chismart, you mentioned earlier that you like to write about things that you mentioned the monsters and like the world ending, and maybe kind of like the Stephen King sort of themes. Do you ever find yourself when you're writing, or even during your times in college or something, writing about experiences you had in high school?
Oh yeah, I mean absolutely, because unfortunately and fortunately, one of the things about being a writer is that you've got the blessing and curse of kind of an incredible memory. So yeah, I remember all the silly little jokes me and my buddies like Matt Davis would tell each other between the hallways, or me and Jacob Orn like wrestling in the black box acting room. And there's so many just little, and it's just like the slice of life stuff mostly that makes it in, because that's what I remember the most vividly and fondly about St. Paul's, is just like screwing around on our lunch periods in Miss Adachi's room, just playing Scrabble or something. And that I think definitely breaks through a lot. Horror, or literally any genre, you need those moments of small, quiet humanity. And as loud as St. Paul's boys can be, and as boisterous, there's just so much of that, like, coalition and that peace and that unity here that you really need to, when you're writing about anything, not just not when you're just trying to scare people, or not just writing fiction, but even nonfiction, that kind of attention to detail and that kind of just especially the relationship to a space. I mean, I know you guys are growing up and going to school in an entirely different building than I was. I still had old Ratcliffe Hall. I still had the old Foursquare Circle, which was like a concreted over fountain. Do you have the Foursquare Circle?
I know the fountain is, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and just so much of that, is very specific to my time and very specific to me and my friends and the place that St. Paul's was when we were here. And it's really interesting to see, all the things that stay the same and all the little imperceptible things that change. And for me, especially being a big Stephen King fan who's really known for his mastery over setting, St. Paul, I got to write a book that takes place in a school. It's like St. Paul's one day because it's just, there's just so much character here. There's just so much, like the chapel's a great example. It feels like you can go into the chapel, go into the basement, open up any book, and there'll be a message in the front page, someone 10 classes before you left. And it's just, it all feels very connected here. And I think that's real cool.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Wade, you spoke about your experience on the baseball team and Mr. Walsh being your coach. Could you talk a little bit about some of the experiences you had on that team and maybe what your role would have been on those teams throughout your high school years?
I would say, it was at the beginning. It was very humbling because coming out of middle school, you feel like you're the best one on the team, but then coming here and there's a guy named Jack Carey, who's the Maryland Gatorade Player of the Year, and you got guys surrounded like that. So it's a very humbling experience and really taught me to really to get how to develop a routine and how to be consistent and just watching their work and just wanted to put that time in. Because I felt like every time we practiced very hard, and the games became easy, which was a really cool thing. And I would say that's the same thing for basketball too, but mostly for baseball too. It was very hard practices, but the practice made the games easier and made us come together closer as a unit. We took a nice trip to Florida, to Disney World, played there. That was pretty cool. So, no, it was a great experience being on the team for 4 years, and then eventually, starting off as a young guy trying to, establish himself and then eventually be a senior year and where you take more on a leadership role. It was definitely really cool to see the growth from freshman year to senior year from what we learned from Coach Walsh and Coach Bernsdorf, but from the baseball program.
That's awesome. Mr. Seymour, you are in the sports marketing world, and you spoke earlier about your time at Middlebury, going on to play lacrosse there, and then playing lacrosse here also. Into hockey and some other sports. Was there a moment in time, whether it was high school or college, where you knew that you wanted to go in the sports marketing business?
Yeah, I mean, when I was here at St. Paul's, my dad worked at Channel 2, and I was able to do the Colts Corral show. I was able to do the Baltimore bike race. I was able to do some stuff with the Orioles. So I got some really good experience and connection to sports. I worked the Chris Everett tour for a farewell tour for tennis, kind of got an experience from an event perspective. And this was all kind of in and around before college and then just after college. I knew that I wanted to connect marketing. My grandfather was in advertising, my dad was in marketing, and I wanted to connect my life in sports with marketing and figure out how I could have a career. I knew I didn't want to be behind a desk. I knew I wanted to do something outside, do something different, something exciting, something that involved my passion. I always tell everybody that I've never worked a day in my life because I love what I do. Working within sports, I've done, I ran the event division for Octagon for many years, and we did bikes, blades, and boards. We did X Games stuff. We did Gravity Games. We did the Saturn Pro Tour. We did the Gorge Games. We've done tennis events, golf events, and I moved my career from, running the event division into running the golf business and really just understanding the audience. I'm really, my background is understanding the golf audience worldwide and how do our clients connect to that golf audience uniquely. And I do that working with all the governing bodies, whether it be the Masters, the RNA, the USGA, working with the individual players, everything you can imagine. So, for example, last week we were down at the PGA show, and I had, BMW, and we had a Ryder Cup meeting in preparation for the Ryder Cup coming up here in September in New York. We were Friday, Comcast Business as a client. We did a commercial in preparation for the Players Championship coming up in March. We had Tom Watson and Billy Horschel and, a commercial crew, and, we're building a commercial that's going to air in March in and around the stuff that Comcast Business is doing for the Players Championship. So, just the experience of understanding that, I didn't want to be behind a desk. I love sports. I had a connection with marketing, and how do I make those come together? Really, from a passion perspective, it allowed me to do something that's never seemed like work my entire life.
That definitely sounds like a lot of probably what the adults in this room are hearing from a lot of the kids that are coming up and looking at colleges and thinking about what they want to study, especially the guys who love sports but don't want to have to sit behind a desk and do a normal 9 to 5 all day. That definitely sounds like what a lot of people would be interested in.
I would say, just adding to that, I was a political science and Spanish major at Middlebury, and I've talked to a lot of kids along the way with regards to, what do you study to get into sports? What do you study to get into marketing? What do you do to do that? And really, it's about chasing your passions and understanding, how do you write? How do you present? How do you, look at reading materials and putting it into a cohesive presentation. Really just understanding those elements are the everyday things that you need to be able to be successful in a career in sports and marketing.
Definitely. So a question for all of you guys. Was there a challenge that you guys faced in high school that taught you resilience or you think shaped your character into who you are today?
Mr. Sequeira's algebra class. For sure. I mean, I'm sorry to skip you, but that strikes a chord. I mean, but it definitely taught you that, just to keep going for sure, and that it also taught me not to be afraid to ask for help. All this talk about Mr. Darrell tonight's been pretty cool. He also held a Wednesday night math help every Wednesday, and it was from I remember we would leave basketball practice, and then you come right over here and we work in the library, and we'll work from, I think it was 7 to 9 every Wednesday. So it definitely taught you to ask for help and not be afraid to, if you don't understand, to get out your shell and then put in extra work until you can get it right. So I would say definitely Mr. Sequeira's algebra class for sure.
I would have seen you in Mr. Darrell's help class.
Every Wednesday.
I remember specifically in 8th grade, Jamie Andrews was my teacher. Remember Mr. Andrews? Yeah. So I still can't tell if he was chill or if he was just messing with us. I don't know. But I remember one night after lacrosse practice, there was some conflict that I had discovered that I was going to go to my first concert of all time. I was going to see Rush play at USA Arena. Mike Furr, a classmate of mine, his dad bought us all tickets, and we were all set to go the next day. But something happened with the scheduling thing, and I had a lacrosse thing at the same time. And I was, doing what 8th grade boys do and taking my mental frustrations out physically on probably a locker or something like that. And Mr. Andrews stopped me, and he said, "Hey, listen, let's work backwards. What do you want the net result to be, or the end result to be?" I said, "Well, I want to go to this concert, but I don't want to, lose out on this other thing too." So he helped me kind of work through that, and that was the first time that I remember sort of working backwards from what I wanted the result to be. And I remember it distinctly, and I've thought about that time 1,000 times since, because that's when I really something clicked with me. Maybe it was the age, but Mr. Andrews really talked to me at that time the way no one really had, and it made a huge impact on who I am today, I think.
I'll jump in. When I moved here, our family wasn't particularly religious, and I'd never been to church. And I came here to St. Paul's as a sophomore in high school, and as one of the things that was part of the curriculum was going to chapel on Wednesdays, and it was probably one of the most intimidating things I've ever had in my career. And my mom brought me to church in the summertime before we came to St. Paul's, and taught me the Lord's Prayer, and I ended up being on the vestry my junior and senior year here at St. Paul's, and really enjoyed the theology class and learned a lot about history. And it really taught me a lot about, life in a lot of different ways. And, now, my kids have all been baptized. They all go to Episcopal Church, and, really just a unique experience, and one that, was very intimidating when I came to St. Paul's.
And then for me, first thing that comes to mind is probably I don't remember exactly what we called, but I was back here when we still had when we were still in full swing with the International Baccalaureate, and we had senior theses or senior projects or something like that, and I ended up writing some essay called "The Role of Religion in Stephen King's Desperation," which ended up being like 10,000 words, the first draft, and I was just like totally overwhelmed. I had really hyped myself up to try and write this like college level essay, and I kind of just had like a 10,000 word pile of mush. And I went to my senior thesis advisor, Miss Robertson, who was also my freshman year English teacher, my advisor the first 2 years. And I was just like, you have got to help me organize my ideas and my thoughts on this like behemoth of a paper, because I've never tried to do anything this big, and I've got no idea what I'm doing. And I just remember one day that I didn't have practice for anything. I just, after school, sat with her in her office for like probably an hour and a half, and we went over this entire structure of this essay and broke it down piece by piece, helping me figure out what I could cut, and making this giant to-do list of how to fix this huge essay. And by the end of it, I had this huge list of everything I had to do to fix it, which should have been really, really intimidating. It was like 2 pages long, just everything I did wrong, and it should have felt absolutely crushing to look at. It should have felt like, how am I going to fix this? But it never did, because I had Miss Robertson's help. I'm pretty sure Miss Mozalin helped me a few times. I know she's here. I had a lot of different teachers help with just getting my ideas organized and getting the essay I wanted, and getting what I wanted to say down on paper as succinctly and briefly as possible. And the battle of that process, of that cutting, it probably took like a month, because we got like a whole bunch of time off school to just work on those IB projects. So it was, for me, just like a huge labor, just constantly headbutting this brick wall, and eventually it just broke through. And it's just because I had incredible support structure here. I had people, all my English teachers, Mr. Baird, Miss Bean, Mr. Conant, Miss Robertson, taking looks at different paragraphs, telling me what I could do differently, what I could do better, if there was anything I could read to give me some ideas. So that definitely comes to mind.
Awesome. We're going to take a jump now into your guys' current professions and what you guys are doing day to day. Mr. Wade, I apologize again for the mix-up on the position earlier. You might have to help me out here. Make sure Google didn't mess me up again. But are you still the Players Union representative for the Giants?
Yes, I am.
So could you talk a little bit about what that means and what you do in that role?
Yeah, so I'm the union rep for the San Francisco Giants. Each team has one rep, and we're basically the voice of our clubhouse on any issues that's happening within our game. So I guess right now our next meeting will be about the rule changes that the MLB is proposing. And then it's my job to get back to all the players on the roster, the 40-man roster, and ask them their opinions, their concerns, what they like about the rules, and eventually give the Players Association a stance on how our clubhouse votes on that. But also, it's just a way to also really get back at the owners. Honestly, it's like it's the union is to fight for the players, like rights and our game. They're trying to change our game up, and it's up to us to like stand for it. And every CBA that happens every 4 years is our job to try and protect what we want. And it's a lot of negotiating stuff, and you really learn how to talk to the other side, which meaning the owners and stuff like that, and you hear how they talk and how they treat us, and you know, you really learn that side, which is interesting to me, and like a lot of fans don't really understand that side of it, and I didn't understand it either until I kind of got involved in it, and I'm really glad that I did.
That's awesome to hear, and seems like a really important job. And you talked about leadership in high school, and now a whole different leadership in the pros. So, Mr. Thomas, before you got to where you are now, you created and grew 3 companies and then decided to sell them. Because you are in the video production side of things, and it's a little bit different than what traditional business looks like. Could you talk about how some of those business skills applies to your current job?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's important to note for the record that I have sold 3 companies, but like not for like tons of dough. You know, you know, one of them did all right, and the other 2 were like, how do I get out of this, right? So one of them actually is called Pretty Instant, and I sold my shares to the rest of the guys like 2 days before they went to the Shark Tank lady, Barbara, and she invested in the company and completely tanked it for them. So I lucked out on that one. So, but yeah, I would say buy low, sell high. That has applied. That's been a absolute winning combination for me in the video production business. Which it sounds funny, but I got to tell you, a lot of these creators, these artistic folks that you know, really find a passion and then go down that road, they don't get that. I don't know if I learned that here or just by making mistakes, but certainly I paid attention to that early, and it has helped me because the problem that a lot of small business owners find is that they monetize their skill set and they don't know how to basically expand that so that they can you know, make an actual business rather than a 2 full-time jobs where they're also the creator but also managing the business, which is I think in the video art world, certainly in the, having owned a recording studio for a couple of years, you know, you learn that lesson very, very quickly after you are burning 90-hour weeks in the studio, and you realize that you can't be doing both. So, yeah, I would say that that those experiences early have helped me in the audiovisual production world and in the video production world.
Mr. Seymour, in your job, it has to do a lot with social media. And in today's day and age, because social media is so important and in so many people's hands, could you talk a little bit about how social media in today's age has changed your job as it's continued to get more popular?
Yeah, I mean, social media as a marketing tool is a big deal from a digital perspective. All of our clients are very involved from a digital perspective. It's all about developing a campaign to reach a specific audience, and how do you use social media to help achieve that goal. And there are influencers that are out there that do certain things that help you with your campaigns. We're engaged in the social space for all of our clients, whether it be Bank of America or BMW or other, in and around their events. We have the BMW Championship that's coming here to Baltimore, here at Caves Valley in August. We use social media in a big way in and around that to promote the event, to promote what we're about. When you think about the Evans Scholars, who the event benefits, and looking at to give back, and how do we showcase where the money goes, and how do you do that creatively, and making sure you engage the stories of the individual Evans Scholars. We raise $10 million through the tournament to benefit kids to go to college. We've got 1,200 kids in colleges all across the country that we're paying full tuitions and raising money to do that for the Evans Scholars, and we use social media to tell their story, to help raise money for those scholars. The BMW Championship as a platform here in Baltimore, it's amazing that it brings a community together, raises money and delivers money to the local community, delivers awareness to Baltimore as a community and what's going on within the city. It's broadcast all across the world. So it's, social media is a big part of the marketing mix of everything that we do with our clients, and, is a great benefit. Certainly, we track it. There are lots of different social media tracking elements. It's a share of voice elements in and around it, negative and positive sentiment in the marketplace. You have different spikes of negative and positive sentiment. What's causing those elements? We're watching that all the time.
It's an incredible foundation for the kids all around the world. Mr. Chismar, you spoke a little bit about your time in high school with your thesis, and then in college. Most of the time, if you talk to kids in high school, and I'm not sure if you could include yourself in this, but a lot of people look at books and don't want to read them. They'd rather be playing sports and stuff and struggle with the idea of having to write. Was there a certain time that writing sparked your interest and you knew that you wanted to do this at the next level?
That's a great question. I've always definitely, had a book in my backpack or something at least. That's just been something that's always been true about me. I've always loved reading, and I've always loved trying my hand at making my own stories. And yeah, at St. Paul's, I kind of was always the guy who had a book in his backpack, and I think sometimes people didn't quite know what to make of it because I also played football, hockey, lacrosse. I think if you looked at me and just took me for what you saw me on the St. Paul's campus, I would just kind of hit you as another lacrosse playing jock. And then as soon as people would get to know me and start being like, why do you have a copy of The Lord and the Flies in your backpack? Like, no English class is assigning that this year. Or like, just I get way too excited and into Mr. Conant's English class conversations, or Mr. Baird's, rest in peace, Mr. Baird's Macbeth soliloquies and trials. So I was always definitely a little nerdy when it came to books and reading and literature and stuff. But again, that's just one of the awesome things about St. Paul's is that, like, I could just be that person. I didn't have to choose between sports and reading and fiction. I could balance it however I wanted to be, whatever kind of person I wanted to be. And yeah, I was just accepted for that for the most part. I don't know if there's one like real spark, but I will give one St. Paul's moment is when I read W.B. Yeats's poetry in Mr. Conant's class junior year for the first time. We read The Second Coming, which if you've never read that poem, it's incredible. And that sparked a total interest in poetry for me I'd never had before. I'd never even really read poetry outside of school, and now I've got pretty much everything W.B. Yeats and a bunch of other Irish poets have ever written.
A question for each of you guys. You guys have spoke about how your professions and then your time in high school, you guys seem to always be working on a team of some sorts. Could you talk a little bit about some of the most important skills when working on a team?
I would say is to be a good teammate. The way you treat others in the clubhouse, the way you treat them on the court or the field, wherever you're playing. I think that's the one thing that you learn. Everybody comes from different backgrounds, from different places, different skill sets. So I think you definitely learn how to become a great teammate, and that's the thing that I think you learn the most.
I'll jump in. In my business, it's all about building great teams and executing. When we run the BMW Championship, or we're going to do the Players Championship, or we're doing the Arnold Palmer Invitational, we have teams that are executing and making sure that you have great team members that are leading. They're in the right positions to, do all the right skills across the board, and finding the right people to make sure that you're, delivering across it, but also having fun. You want to work with people you have respect for, people you love, people that you have a great time with, people that really inspire you to do great things. At Octagon, I've got 6 people that have been there for 20 plus years because they love the people they work with. They've seen the grass is greener on sometimes other sides, and they've decided they want to work with the people and stay with the people and the team that they've been with for a long period of time. You know, I've made a lot of choices along the way, but it's really been about, you know, the people I work with, and you know, those are great people that inspire, lead, do great things, enjoy what they do, and you know, I love where I work.
I'll just echo what Lamont said, and yeah, to me, everything I learned about being a teammate at St. Paul's, it's captured in those words we would say every morning, basically. To give and not to count the cost, to fight and not to heed the wounds, to toil and not to seek for rest, to labor and not to ask for a reward. You guys still say that? Awesome. Because, I mean, I still wake up some mornings and I just say that to myself because to me, that's what being a teammate's about. It's about walking in the room and saying, all right, what can I do to help you all? What can I do to support you all? What can I do to make this situation better? And like we literally said that just every single day here, and it just drills it into your head as just a way of life to strive for and persevere towards.
Yeah, I think these guys have all captured it really nicely. And it's one of the nice things about St. Paul's is that I felt like we learned how to lead in different situations. It's pretty easy to be a leader or a good teammate on a team that's crushing, right? It's really different to be a leader or a teammate in a group that is going through some adversity, and you know, having that exposure and experience here, I think helped me in my world. My world's a little different in the sense that sometimes I'm managing a team of 100 different people who are in 3 different unions who have different personal goals as to why they want to be there. Maybe a third of them are on they're going to get paid whether they work an hour or 10 hours, so they're working really fast, right? And then you've got some people who are trying to make their name in the business, and they're working really, really, they're trying to make it as good as possible, and being able to manage those groups who have different personal goals, and maybe under stress or whatever from a client or something like that. Maybe the weather's, you know, screwing us up. You know, having that skill set, I think, is really important.
Definitely. You kind of hit my next question on the head a little bit. But for the rest of you guys, and if you have anything to add, is there anything about the community or culture of St. Paul's that kind of influences your personal or professional values, like some things you strive to do every day? You guys all seem to be in leadership roles, things that you try and implement in the teams that you're on.
I would say just, you know, being open to other people's ideas, you know, always being able in that growth mindset, I feel like, not thinking that you always have all the answers, you know. That's how I try and, like, be a union rep and be a leader in the clubhouse, you know, whether it's a guy who's got 10 years in the league or a rookie who's going back and forth. I feel like everybody's voices count, and they're all deserving of being listened to, so that's how I kind of see it.
I think the question about the culture here, I think one of the things that was really impactful for me was I always call them service learning hours. I forget what we called them back then, but basically we went down to Old St. Paul's, or one of the options you had for this was to go down to Old St. Paul's with a teacher or a faculty member and spend the night at the shelter there. And I would say that was fundamentally eye-opening for me. You know, growing up maybe a mile down the road, didn't have a lot of exposure to folks who were in that type of need. So to be able to have that culture here at St. Paul's, which is one of service for the community at many levels, has helped me and helped me sort of pick the volunteer organizations that I will work with as an adult, and where I'll put my money.
Giving back has always been a big part of, you know, my career and things that I like to do. I'm on the first tee board. I served with Steve Stenerson when he was at USA Lacrosse. On the U.S. Lacrosse Foundation board. I'm helping Youth on Course. I help Evan Scholars. Really, the giving back piece is something that was kind of, you know, a big focus of St. Paul's, a big focus of, you know, my family and my family upbringing, and really finding how I can, through sport and through entertainment, really make a difference in people's lives. and that's been a big focus of, what I try to do throughout my career.
And then I can just add a little bit more about my experience and how just my St. Paul's values have persevered throughout my life. And I think, as everyone else said, giving back is just such a huge part of that. And one way I've really enjoyed doing that is, I think I might have mentioned earlier, I am a volunteer assistant lacrosse coach at Harvard Day, and that is just because so much of what I remember about my St. Paul's experience and look back fondly on is just all the new skills I learned. Your tech theater class, which I don't even know if you remember me being in because my hair was a lot bigger back then. Which I learned so much woodworking in that I didn't expect to learn going into, and I've ended up, I've never dropped woodworking since. I've learned hockey. I never skated before, and now I, am able to go out and skate on frozen ponds in Maryland this year, which is a treat. Just so many things, even just beyond the classroom that just skills I feel like I never would have had if I never got the opportunity to come here. So, one way I try to give back is just, trying to teach kids lacrosse, because, half our team is all studs who are playing for Breakers and Crabs, if Breakers is even around anymore. I might be dating myself there. And, half the kids who have never picked up the stick before. And so much of St. Paul's was you were just in that environment where, whatever it is, whatever the class is, whatever the subject matter is, there's going to be kids who are studs at it, and there's going to be kids who have never done it before ever. And one of the best parts of it was always just seeing how everyone, regardless of like their skill or knowledge level at a certain subject or sport, would come together and just really make some really special stuff happen. So I'm really trying to emulate that in my volunteer middle school lacrosse coaching, which has been a lot of fun, and we're going to beat the Crusaders this year, sorry.
That's awesome. That's all great to hear. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I just have one more question that I want to squeeze in. If you guys were to give either your younger self or somebody who is starting high school one piece of advice, what would you give them?
I can go first. And mine would just be treasure your friends. Because I was just at one of my best friends from St. Paul's weddings last year. And it was just probably a dozen St. Paul's guys there. And it was just like we snapped our fingers and we went back in time, and all of a sudden we were right here again, sitting in Fisher Hall, feet kicked up on the chairs, Mr. Shipley yelling at us to tighten up our ties and tuck our shirts in, and that's as close as you get to real life magic in this world, I think, is just a moment where you can come together with people you haven't seen in years and just pretend like no time has passed. And St. Paul's has given me so many of those friends, not even just in my grade, I'm counting, Coach Benzing and Coach Brock up there too. Everyone I've had the pleasure of being taught and coached by. It's just, for me, I would just say, continue to treasure and cultivate the community that you got to be a part of here, and just never let that go, because you're really lucky to have it.
I would say, to embrace it all, and to, it's okay to try different things, and the things that you're not really comfortable with, it's okay to try things like that. Like I said, I was in the jazz band playing the clarinet. I was in Mr. Darrell's bike shop, never had anything to do with bikes, but tried it. Just go out there and try everything. You never know what you might like, and just have fun with it all, and just it all goes by fast. It's been a long just seeing this place from what it's been since I left here, it just comes a long way. Time flies, and just enjoy it all and have fun and be in the moment.
I love what these guys said, and I want to add that when you get out to life, so the young guys up there that I'm looking at, most people in this world will not have anywhere close to the opportunity that you've had here. And you need to acknowledge that, maybe now, maybe later, but when you're working with other people out there, just remember that you're getting one of the best educations in the world and one of the best exposures to experience in the world. So just in your day-to-day, when you graduate college and are going through your life, remember that your background is going to be way more have a lot more opportunities in it than most people. So just bear that in mind.
Yeah, I'll just echo a little bit of what's being said up here. Keep your friends close. I have a friend who has ALS, diagnosed 4 years ago, and he was on our lacrosse team at Middlebury, and we've had a really tight-knit group, has been support. We did a travel for 18 of us to go see him in September of this year and really just be there for him. Really treasure those moments with your friends along the way. From a career standpoint, never in my life would I have thought I could make a career out of golf or a career out of sport. And if you chase your passion, you can figure out where you want to go and what you want to do. Just be the best at what you do. Be unique. Really chase your dreams because it's out there and it's at the end of your nose. Just go out and grab it. They've taught you here at St. Paul's. They've given you all the skills to be able to find what you want to do. If you want to be a fly fishing guide in New Zealand, be the best you can possibly be fly fishing guide in New Zealand. If you want to work in golf, you want to work in entertainment, you want to be a teacher, be the best at that. Really focus on being the best you can possibly be.
Thank you guys so much for the time that you've taken out of your daily lives, whatever it is, to come and share your stories, share the incredible memories that you guys have gone through, and just thank you guys so much for coming.
Once again, we're so grateful that you all have come and spent this time with us. They've already received their gift bags. A part thank you for the sacrifice and the time and the wisdom. Every time I hear alums speak and reflect upon their time at St. Paul's, I'm reminded about how many things stay the same. The experiences you all talked about, the connection of the faculty, how they go the extra mile, how they sacrifice to make sure that you all can be your best self, and how at St. Paul's there's an expectation that we're going to take care of one another, and that it's cool to try things that maybe you didn't know, that you didn't do, and that you can be your full self here at St. Paul's. And so those things, those themes remain here at St. Paul's, and for those young gentlemen who are here who are going to continue this legacy. We're certainly excited about that. A couple final thank yous. Ms. Franceschi, thank you for all the work that you did to organize all of this. Thank you. Mr. Byers, wherever he is, and our esteemed crew who's standing, who's behind me. Thank you all. Holding cameras, managing this. Thank you all. And I mentioned I'll have a couple quick reminders. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. The third part happens on April 1st. It's not an April Fool's joke. We will be here with 4 other alums on a panel just like this, and I get the opportunity to moderate that. And the theme in that on April 1st is really about thinking about the future. And they're experts just like these gentlemen in their own fields who are going to come and share how they in their lives, in their professional lives, prepare for a changing world, and how all of that factors into how they hire, how they manage, how they lead. And so we invite you back on that day. That's April 1st. And we also invite you to Old St. Paul's Church. It came up a bit here on February 9th. It's Super Bowl Sunday. Unfortunately, the Ravens will not be playing. But on Super Bowl Sunday, at 10 a.m. service at Old St. Paul's, we will gather to celebrate Founders Day. It will technically be our 176th year, but we will be there. Students will be singing and participating in that service, and so everyone is invited. And the last thing I'll say is, if you have not gotten a St. Paul's 175 magnet or one of the stickers. They're on the tables. Please take them. There's still food and drink and fellowship. These gentlemen would love to talk a bit more with you right after this. But thank you so much for coming tonight. Have a great rest of the evening.